Ted Cruz is a punk and a sissy, and he needs to take his ball and go home, i.e., give up the ghost, because he is not going to win the Republican nomination. In this particular clip, you're going to see the numbers that are definitely against Ted Cruz, and when asked if he would support the Republican nominee, which obviously would be Donald Trump, this sissy refuses to answer and starts filibustering. He's asked 5 times if he will support the Republican nominee, which he signed a pledge to do. And Mr. Cruz cannot bring himself to say that he would support the Republican nominee. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be Donald Trump if Trump didn't get to 1237 at some point, but he could not say that he would support the nominee because that nominee is going to be Donald Trump, and he knows it. Here's the clip.
Trump didn't just win all 5 states at play on Tuesday. He won all of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. He won all 23 counties in Maryland. He won all 8 counties in Connecticut, all 5 in Rhode Island, and all 3 in Delaware. In other words, each and every one of the 106 counties that voted last Tuesday, and he won all but 2 of those counties by double digits. You want a little bit more? Trump now needs just 47% of the remaining delegates to go to Cleveland with the magic number of 1237. Ted Cruz and John Kasich are mathematically eliminated. They each need to win more than 100% of the remaining delegates. An impossible task. So where does that leave Ted Cruz? Journalists have gone to the cliche handbook. He's throwing a Hail Mary, pulling out all the stops, throwing spaghetti against the wall. Well, guess what? None of it seems to be sticking. This week's mutual non-aggression pact with John Kasich collapsed. Cruz's choice of Carly Fiorina as his running mate produced very little buzz. And now there's this. With Cruz counting on Tuesday's primary in Indiana to stop Trump, our latest NBC News Wall Street Journal Marist poll has Trump leading Ted Cruz by a whopping 15 points, close to 50%, 49-34. John Kasich way behind in third at 13%. In fact, Bernie Sanders is in better shape in Indiana against Hillary Clinton than Ted Cruz is. In fact, Sanders only trails Clinton by 4 points in Indiana, 50-46. So it was with all that in mind that I began my conversation with Senator Ted Cruz on Friday, and I began by asking him why even John Kasich has actually received more Republican votes than Ted Cruz has since Cruz won Wisconsin 3 weeks ago.
Well, Chuck, what we have been saying happening for several months now is Republicans uniting behind our campaign. Now, you're right. You're focusing on the last week. The last week, Donald Trump won his home state of New York, and he won the adjoining states in the Northeast. And the media reacted with heart palpitations at what a wonderful, wonderful, decisive moment it was for Donald. But as you know well, in the 3 weeks that preceded New York, 5 states voted: Utah, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Colorado, Wyoming.
Now, that's not necessarily true. What ended up happening was there were delegate conferences in 3 of those states. And you have to give it to Cruz. His ground game outperformed Donald Trump's ground game, which is going to mean basically nothing, because all those delegates that he won, those delegates are still committed to vote on the first ballot for Donald Trump. So if Trump gets to 1237 on the first ballot, all that work that you did is for naught. Now, we will give you Wisconsin, but the entire Republican machine had your back in Wisconsin. So, but yet and still, a win is a win, and that was a good win. But you were destroyed in the last 5 primaries. And you came in third in all but one of those. So for you to jump up and down, you should be given this nomination. Trump clearly has momentum, and the victory that he gained in those last 5 primaries basically dwarfs anything that you've done previously, even crying about that you were so victorious in the races leading up to New York.
A total of 1.3 million people voted in those 5 states, and we won landslides 5 states in a row. In fact, I won more Republican votes in Wisconsin than Donald Trump did in New York, although that somehow hasn't been reported an awful lot.
If you don't win Indiana, do you get out of the race?
Indiana is an important state. We are competing hard. We're barnstorming the state. We're on a bus tour, Heidi and I and the girls and Carly, and we're seeing great support in Indiana. And I will say this, Indiana has a chance to choose. Do we want to support a campaign that is based on yelling and screaming and cursing and insults? Or do we want to unify behind a positive, optimistic, forward-looking conservative campaign based on real policy solutions to the problems?
So if Indiana rejects you, if they're rejecting that argument, are they not?
Well, I don't believe so. I think the support we're seeing is surging. There's a reason Governor Mike Pence offered his support. He's hearing from Hoosiers across the state that don't.
That's a bunch of bullshit. Pence fell into the party line, and the party line is to support you, not Trump. Unfortunately, Pence's popularity versus Bobby Knight's popularity leaves a lot to be desired. And Bobby Knight came out full force, full-throated endorsement, and appeared several times over a couple of days with Donald Trump. So if I were you, I would have tried to get the Bobby Knight endorsement before the Mike Pence's half-hearted, forced party endorsement of you.
Want a campaign that is based on yelling and bullying.
All right, I want to go to your struggles in uniting the party around you. In fact, this is what you're now running mate.
Tell me what you really think,
Well,
Jeff.
no, it's not about me. I'm just asking about your struggles here, getting the party to rally around you. Here's your running mate. Here's what your running mate said about you when she was running for president. Take a listen.
There's no honor in charging a hill that you know you can't take, only casualties. Although Ted Cruz maybe got name recognition and money along the way.
I find it odd that Senator Ted Cruz did not renounce his dual Canadian citizenship until 2014, when it became clear he was running for president.
Ted Cruz is just like any other politician. He says one thing in Manhattan, he says another thing in Iowa, he says whatever he needs to say to get elected, and then he's going to do as he pleases.
Which Carly Fiorina should we believe?
Well, I'll tell you, Chuck, listen, when you have a competitive primary, people play hard, they play vigorous, and so she was competing and trying to win,
And she was telling the truth.
That's what people do in the course of a primary. I'll tell you how the choice of Carly came about. It was a little over 7 weeks ago that
Yeah, and within the past week, you needed to get Donald Trump off of the front pages and the lips of all of the GOP people. And so you decided to throw a Hail Mary, which the last person to throw that Hail Mary missed as well, which was Ronald Reagan. So you're following in some pretty good company, because Reagan was a prick as well.
She publicly endorsed me. And she did that after coming to the conclusion. She voted for me in Virginia first. Long after she dropped out, she came to the conclusion I was the strongest candidate. And after she endorsed, Carly went on the road with me. Heidi and I have spent a lot of time with Carly campaigning, getting to know each other firsthand.
Yeah, basically what she did, she didn't go for the strongest one. She went for the party line because she may have aspirations to run again somewhere, and she wants to make sure that the party is going to support her wherever or whenever she runs.
And I'll tell you, one of the reasons we did a long and extensive search to narrow down the right VP nominee. It's perhaps the most serious and solemn decision a presidential candidate makes. But it ended up being a very easy choice, because I wanted someone who had the knowledge to do the job, to be president, who had the judgment to do the job, and who had the character to do the job. And you know, Carly's story is extraordinary. She stands up to Donald Trump. She stands up to Hillary Clinton. Bullying is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of weakness and insecurity. And Carly has shattered glass ceilings her entire life. And I'm incredibly proud to be running on a ticket with Carly.
Now, I'll give it to you. It was a good choice, but not a good strategically designed choice. Carly is a great attack dog when it comes to Donald Trump and also Hillary Clinton. But everybody and their brother sees through this charade of you naming her at this point in time, because basically you're going down for the third time and hoping that she'll be the life preserver that can keep you going. And that's not going to be the case. And after Tuesday, this is going to be really interesting.
Donald Trump accused Hillary Clinton of playing a gender card. and saying that she wouldn't be anywhere, she'd only be at 5% if she were a man instead of a woman. What do you make of that comment?
Oh, it's typical Donald Trump. The only thing he knows how to do in any given circumstance is he yells, he screams, he curses, or he insults. So there he's insulting Hillary. Listen, Hillary is a very smart, committed liberal. Her policies are profoundly wrong, but, you know, Donald can't criticize her policies. You know why? Because he supports them. Donald and Hillary, they're flip sides of the same coin. They've both gotten rich exploiting Washington, exploiting government power. So Donald can't criticize Hillary Clinton on Planned Parenthood because he agrees with her. They both say it's terrific and they should keep taxpayer funding.
I got to ask you about, I know you've heard them before, but I got to play them for the viewer, the John Boehner comments that he made earlier this week. Here they are, and I'll get you to react on the other side.
Cruz. Lucifer in the flesh. I have many Democrat friends and I have Republican friends. I get along with everybody. But I have never worked with a more miserable son of a bitch.
The fact is, you cannot seem to get the party to truly rally around you. If anything, the party is now seeming to be accepting the premise that Trump is going to be the nominee. Isn't it because you have these bad relationships with the John Boehners of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world? You're not going to win this nomination without their help, are you not?
Well, Chuck, you know, I actually think those remarks illustrate exactly what this race is all about. Number one, I don't know John Boehner. The two of us haven't said 50 words to each other in our entire lives.
Why?
That's a lie, okay? And John Boehner basically exposed that lie. Ted Cruz was the lawyer for John Boehner back in, I believe it was 2009. So you normally say more than 50 words to your lawyer. So that in itself is a lie. He knows John Boehner. John Boehner knows him.
You wanted a government shutdown that he helped lead. How have you not had any interaction with the Speaker of the House as a leading Republican senator?
Chuck, it's actually a good illustration. During the government shutdown, I reached out and offered for Mike Lee and me to come over and sit down with the Speaker and Majority Leader, and Boehner said, no interest, no value, not willing to talk to you. So I don't know him at all, but what was interesting about Boehner's comments is he praised Hillary Clinton. He thinks she's terrific. And he praised Donald Trump. He said Donald is his friend. He's his texting and golfing buddy. Listen, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and John Boehner they are the Washington cartel. It is the corruption of Washington. And this is where, with all respect, a lot of the folks in the media don't understand. That's what people are ticked off at. The greatest fraud in this entire election is Donald pretending he's some sort of outsider. Donald and Hillary are the ultimate Washington insiders. They have been enmeshed in the corruption. If you like John Boehner, if you want a presidential candidate like John Boehner, that Donald Trump is your candidate. In fact, I saw those comments and kind of thought Boehner was auditioning to be Trump's VP candidate.
You spent this entire interview trying to eviscerate Donald Trump. If he's the nominee, I take it you can't support him anymore, can you?
One.
I believe if the Republican Party nominates Donald Trump, we will lose to Hillary, because when we offer Democrat light, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on the ballot, they support the same social policy, they support the same economic policy. In fact, both Donald and Hillary support allowing illegal immigrants to become U.S. citizens. Now, Donald says he'll fly them back to their country.
Are you going to support him?
We will lose.
I understand what you believe on the Republican Party. Can you support him? Can you tell your delegates
Three.
your arms and support Donald Trump? Well, you may not.
Chuck,
you realize that.
I recognize that many in the media would love for me to surrender to Donald Trump.
It's not about the media. It's about the numbers. It's about the numbers. He may win. Republican voters are the ones rejecting you. This is not a media conspiracy, Senator.
Well, actually, with all due respect, the media has given $2 billion of free advertising to Donald. Let me ask you a question, for example.
Now, that $2 billion in free advertising, he is absolutely right about that. But on the flip side, each and every candidate that wanted that same time could have gotten it. Donald Trump made it his business to make it to every Sunday morning talk show. He also made it his business to go on MSNBC, Fox, and CNN damn near every single day. And each of the networks stated that there were open invitations for any and all of the candidates to come on and get the same amount of airtime or conversations, and very few of them took the networks up on their offers. So for Cruz to complain that all the free media coverage, he had an opportunity to get that same media coverage, and he chose not to utilize it.
How much money did the networks make on every one of the Republican debates?
I have no idea because
Lots
we
and
didn't have a Republican debate.
But you know what's interesting, Chuck? It's been now 49 days since we've had a Republican debate. The Democrats have had a debate. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, they've been willing to debate. Donald can't answer questions about his foreign policy. He can't answer questions about how you bring jobs back.
Why can't you answer the question of whether you can support Donald Trump or not? You can't answer that question. Why won't you answer that question straight to Chuck?
That's 6.
Chuck, let me finish this point I'm making. Even though the media stands to make millions of dollars off of a debate, you hear radio silence from the media about no debates. They're giving up millions of dollars, and the reason is your network's executives are partisan Democrats. Why doesn't every TV
You don't get to just say that. Wait a minute, you don't get to just say that. It's just not true, but go ahead. You're broad brushing here, and this is exactly what people hate about the media and politics, broad brushes, right?
Listen, the simple reality is the media almost entirely are liberal partisan Democrats. That is the reality of it.
That's
media
bullshit.
Created this Trump phenomenon, and then they don't hold him accountable. Now, I'm sure the media planned to do so if he's the nominee in the general election. Suddenly, you're going to hear every day about Donald Trump's tax returns. When was the last time you talked about his tax returns? You know, we ought to have a debate. There are real differences. Donald won't debate and the media won't hold him accountable. I think the people of Indiana deserve.
Can you answer the question about whether you're going to support? Are you going to support Donald Trump if he's the nominee?
That's 8.
I am going to beat Donald Trump. We are headed to a contested convention, and we're going to win, and I'm not willing to concede this country. Listen, this is my kid's future, Chuck. It's not simply a game.
Nobody's saying it's a game, sir.
We lose this. If we lose this, we lose our country. We lose the Supreme Court for a generation.
Right.
Religious liberty is taken away. The Second Amendment is taken away. Our kids are bankrupted. We are at the edge of a cliff. And I'll tell you, the people of Indiana, they really are in a position. The country is depending on them to pull us back from this cliff.
Don't you think it's important to take a stand? You just said it's a time for choosing. If it's a time for choosing, say it. For him or against him as the nominee?
That's
it's a
9.
time for choosing, is it not?
Chuck, you're welcome. You're welcome to lobby for support for Trump as much as possible.
Well, that's not lobbying. He's asking you whether you are going to either support him or not support him. So trying to twist it is not going to work. And see, that's the problem that a lot of people have with Cruz. Cruz is not a positive person. Cruz is a negative person. Cruz only points out the bad thing. He has no positive plan for anything. He doesn't see any good in the country. And that's why people just can't stomach this guy, because he's just totally negative. There's nothing positive about Ted Cruz.
Going to beat Trump because Trump's winning the nomination loses the country.
Don't you think Republican voters...
And I am not willing to give up on America. I'm not willing to give up on America.
But if you care this much about it, don't you think you saying, I can't support him if he's the nominee, doesn't light a fire and send a sense of urgency to the Republican Party?
Chuck, what I'm saying is very, very simple. If you believe in free market principles, if you want to reduce the taxes and regulations on small businesses, if you want to bring jobs back to America, you know, the amazing thing about the three-card monte game being played by Donald Trump is he is laughing at his supporters. He's mocking his supporters because he's lying to them. You know, he tries to pretend he is a supporter of the working man and woman. He's the only person in this race who's had $1 million court judgment against him for hiring illegal aliens. He's the only person in this race who right now is hiring hundreds of foreign workers instead of Americans. And on trade, he pretends to support American fair trade. Donald Trump, the ties he sells, the shirts he sells, the suits he sells are manufactured in Mexico and China. He doesn't intend to change it. We need instead a positive, optimistic campaign that stands with the working men and women of this country. That's what.
And that's the problem. You are not a positive campaigner. You just, which, and you're, basically right, but you're being negative about the whole thing. You're not pointing out anything that's positive about America. As far as you're concerned, America is doing nothing right, which is wrong.
Our campaign is.
All right, so let the record show you have not taken a position on whether you can support Trump if he's the nominee. Fair?
That is 9+ times Cruz has asked a question about supporting the Republican nominee, and 9+ times that Cruz has declined to say whether he will or he won't, which translation means he won't.
And let the record show you tried very, very hard to get me to commit to supporting Trump. The record will.
And the record didn't show that he's trying to get you to support Trump. The record will show that he's asking you what you will do. So stop twisting, Ted. You're a master at twisting things around and not stating facts the way that they truly are, only twisting them to the way that you want them to appear to be.
Fair enough. Senator Ted Cruz, I got to let you go. You got a lot to do in the state of Indiana. We'll be watching. Stay safe on the trail, sir.
Thank you, Chuck. God bless.
All right.
Which, and you're, basically right, but you're being negative about the whole thing. You're not pointing out anything that's positive about America. As far as you're concerned, America is doing nothing right, which is wrong.
Our campaign is.
All right, so let the record show you have not taken a position on whether you can support Trump if he's the nominee. Fair?
That is 9+ times Cruz has asked a question about supporting the Republican nominee, and 9+ times that Cruz has declined to say whether he will or he won't, which translation means he won't.
And let the record show you tried very, very hard to get me to commit to supporting Trump. The record will.
And the record didn't show that he's trying to get you to support Trump. The record will show that he's asking you what you will do. So stop twisting, Ted. You're a master at twisting things around and not stating facts the way that they truly are, only twisting them to the way that you want them to appear to be.
Fair enough. Senator Ted Cruz, I got to let you go. You got a lot to do in the state of Indiana. We'll be watching. Stay safe on the trail, sir.
Thank you, Chuck. God bless.
All right.